Okay, now we're recording. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first time back in person and our first time doing hybrid with Zoom. So this should be fun. Hopefully the video is not too weird. I'm Emily. I run the Witches Meetup. I guess I'm introducing myself to everyone. We do have I didn't manage to make any flyers, but I do have all of our websites on the poster at from when you came in the door, and including our Patreon if you want to sign up for our Patreon. And we also have a box for love donations to help offset the cost of the room. We will be having in-person main events, or hopefully hybrid main events from now on, unless something else weird happens. Hopefully not. So you will be able to come in here for main events or watch on Zoom. And if you're on Patreon, you get access to the recording about a month earlier than everyone else. So join our Patreon. That's my plug. We have Julie and Reese here tonight to talk to us about basics of voodoo, and I will go ahead and hand it off to them.
Okay, so what I plan to do, because I hate giving speeches or sitting in front of people and talking about things, I'm going to give a quick overview of some things, and then a lot of times people have many questions about voodoo, and so I like to take questions, because so hopefully that's how we'll go, and if not, then I'll just keep, I don't know. So the birth of Haitian voodoo began with the revolt in 1791. It was led by Jean-Jacques, I've never said his name. Jean-Jacques Dessalines. And he, so anyway, it was headed up by him. He ended up becoming the first emperor of Haiti. For probably about 2 years, so he was assassinated. It was just assassinated. But this was the first successful slave revolt, in history. And so it was a big deal. And a lot of it, a lot of people will say that voodoo had something to do with it, and with it being successful. And so we can, go into that a bit. I'll go into that a little bit later. So Haitian voodoo also is a mix, obviously, of African diasporic religions and Roman Catholicism. A lot of people don't know that Catholicism is involved in voodoo other than the imagery. Some say that they would use, you'll see like a lot of statues or whatnot, Roman Catholic statues and things like that. And some would say, well, they would hide under the guise of Roman Catholics, right? So there may be some truth to that, but a lot of people don't know that Roman Catholicism had already hit Africa before the slave trade. And so they already knew a bit about it and whatnot. And they just kind of like, oh yeah, okay. So like you guys believe in God, we believe in God. You call it St. Peter, we call it Leva, and they just kind of, they didn't have an issue with it. So that's kind of, and then also you have to realize too, when the enslaved people were brought over from Africa, they, lived in different areas and different tribes. They had their own way of, their own religion, their own way of life, and they just kind of, everything hodgepodge together, along with Roman Catholics. And voila, there was the birth of Haitian. That's really short for you to think of it. So if you want to learn more about that, because that is really important, the entire revolution and the uprising and the overthrowing of the French government and all of that. There's a couple of good books. One's called The Black Jacobites, and the other one, the good one's called Unbroken Agony. And so, and it goes into great detail of how it all happened. So the influence that voodoo had on the uprising is, there's a story that a black Creole pig was sacrificed for Ersley Dawn's War. And during that, a lot of men, I should say, became possessed by the Ogu, and they were able to overthrow the French and the Dutch. And some say that spirit was born of Haiti, But I mean, if you really look at things, no, she was over Dahomey, Dahomey lived with Freda. So like she actually, that spirit did come from Africa, even though some say she was born out of Haiti. I believe, and he knows. I mean, either one could be right. Who knows? That's what I like about Voodoo too. Everything's very fluid. So there's no like set rules with too many things. Um, so yeah, so we don't have hardline rules and whatnot. Um, there's a lot of it. Well, no, there's not a lot of information about Voodoo online. What you find on there, a lot of it's just a bunch of BS, and yeah, they just give like erroneous information and just flat out false information. Um, so there's a few good books that I always suggest if people want to learn more about it. I mean, it's not going to go completely in depth because it is kind of a closed system. So they're not going to, you're not going to find out everything, but to have some good overviews, there's a book called Divine Horsemen, The Living Gods of Haiti by Maya Deren. It's a really good book. And one that I really like a lot is Remembrance. It's called Remembrance, Rituals and Reverence in Voodoo. That book's a little harder to find, but that is super good. Where do I want to go from here? Like, because Voodoo is so simple, but so complex, and there's just like so much to cover. So I mentioned it was a closed tradition, not closed necessarily because of ethnicity. What I've ran into here in the United States, the only people that have problem with white people, because I get that question a lot. You're white, why do you practice Voodoo? But it's funny because I'll get it by other white people, or I'll get it by African Americans, but not by Haitians. Haitians don't care, because one time I had several Haitians come into my shop, and they were looking at my altars, and they were like pointing and saying, "What's that? What's that?" And so I was telling them the names of them, and they were in Creole, and they started busting up laughing, and I thought, what? Like, why are they laughing? Why are they, So I straight out asked them, "Are you laughing because I'm white and I live in the middle?" And they got so angry and said, no, spirit sees no color. No, they'll never say that again. So the only people I ever get issues from are people that live here, that are from here. And, some will be upset and say that they were appropriating culture or whatnot. And I try to avoid that, though. It's a conversation that must be had. I don't, no matter how you say it, it just sounds like white privilege when you say, I'm not appropriating your culture. Spirit called me, and that was that, right? So, I mean, those discussions need to be had, and there's just
not any different than love is love. I mean, deity calls.
Exactly. I mean, that's how I feel about it, right? Exactly. And truthfully, and I do firmly believe that. I'm just saying that a lot of people, or not a lot of people, there are some people that give me a hard time. Like, who do you think you are? Well, I'm nobody, but like, go, leave me alone, whatever. But there's truth to that, in that spirit will call who spirit calls, because whenever I came to Voodoo, I was a very strict Catholic, believe it or not, very strict. Go to Bible study all the time. I was doing things for the church all the time.
Be a nun.
Oh, wow. Well, I had kids, so I didn't go quite that way. But I was a very strict Catholic, right? Even though a lot of their shit, I was like, whatever. I'm Catholic, and that's that. And then I started having these insane dreams, and I thought it was crazy. These dreams were very lucid. They were very real. And I just couldn't shake these dreams, because, they were real. It was just the most bizarre thing. And I happened to be on the phone with, I'm just shifting gears. I'm all over the place when I talk, by the way.
You're fine. It's fine.
So I ended up talking to my cousin who lives in New Orleans. And I remember we just talked once a week or so, and telling her about these dreams I had. And she's like, "Oh, you need to talk to my friend Sally Ann. She's this voodoo priestess." And I'm like, for what? She goes, "Because that sounds like voodoo." I'm like, "What?" I've got everything in voodoo, the movies and all that crazy, insane sex drunken orgies, like we just see on TV. Like that's what I had in my head, what voodoo was. So somehow I ended up talking with this Sally and told her about my dreams, and she was like, "Oh yeah." She goes, "That just sounds like Legba's open the door, like if you want to step through it." I'm like, I didn't know who Legba was. I don't know what the hell she was talking about. But I just knew those dreams were so powerful that I had to act on them. So I headed down to New Orleans a couple of weeks. I always headed down there anyway to go visit my cousin, and she was like, "Hey, you want to go to?" I didn't know she'd been going to voodoo ceremonies for years. Who would have known, sweet Karen? Like, who would have known? And well, at least in my mind, I mean, she's still sweet, but in my mind, I'm just like, oh my God, creepy voodoo. So she took me to a ceremony, my first ceremony, which should have scared me off because it was a gay day ceremony, which can be very naughty and, very sexual and very naughty. And I'm just like, oh God, okay, so everything I thought about voodoo, but, it's like, no. As soon as I stepped in the temple and I heard the drums start playing and just the ceremony began, I mean, something just really resonated with me. And I can't even explain it. Didn't have a clue what was going on, but it just felt right. And and I was, oh, yeah. So anyway, I found myself less than a month later initiating into voodoo, which I don't recommend anybody initiate that fast. And I never hear of people initiating that fast. I don't know to this day, I still say, like, why did she initiate me so fast? Because it's not just one person, but there's a group of us, we go through these initiations. And to this day, I don't know why, because like if somebody came to me and wanted to be initiated, I'm like, like, that's gonna take years like that. Yeah. So I don't know how to explain, but it felt right. And like I said, when I first initiated, I didn't know nothing going on. The next thing I know, a year or two later, well, I did immerse myself into it, and I traveled to New Orleans a lot. And then I want to make it clear too, even though I was going to New Orleans, it's not New Orleans voodoo that we practice. We happen to be in New Orleans. It's more on the Haitian side. And so a lot of people get that mixed up. New Orleans voodoo, nothing wrong with it, it's completely different. It's more like sympathetic magic, more like the hoodoo and whatnot. And they work with all sorts of deities. So we just, stick to the law. So anywho, so I found myself just immersing it and going into New Orleans all the time, going to these ceremonies and learning and learning and learning. And the next thing I know, here we are. I'm like, have initiated the highest level and have my own house here in Kansas City. Who would have known? Not me. That was the last thing on my mind. So when it calls, it's pretty loud, Yeah, that was crazy. You want to tell them how, like, what brought you to it? Yeah. Because Reese here is going to be initiated. So he's been good. He's been part of our house for how long?
7 years ago, I guess. 7.
I don't know. But he's been good. Like, he's been learning and whatnot. And, he's been going to New Orleans with me. And he learns here from us. Matter of fact, he's teaching people now. We can get into that in a bit. But how did you get called to, like, was it gradual or was it fast? I never asked you really.
I would say I got called to it because, like, I was by myself and I did like a spell. I just wanted to find a group of like-minded people that weren't crazy. That I'm like, maybe not a coven, but I'm like, maybe someone I can learn from or just at least get along with. And could never find her shop for some reason. Like, it would just be like, I'd be like, oh, I might go there and just like see what merchandise she had, but could never find it. And one day I just like literally spirit sometimes just shifts you. I was supposed to be going a different way. And for some reason I got lost and I don't even know why. I made just a different turn. And for some reason I'm just like, zoop, and I look over and there's this giant yellow shop. And I'm like, that's that fucking shop I've been searching for so long. But pardon me, sorry. But, yeah, but it's to the point where I went in and you do feel like a draw in it. Like it's you sometimes it's through dreams, sometimes it's through sometimes you can just kind of like feel them like embrace you in a way. And like I said, you just dream, and then years later you start seeing what some dreams mean. You start learning more. The more you learn, the more you're like, oh, that made sense. Like that's what we're seeing about you. But yeah, it's kind of like that. So it was kind of I'd say a quick pull, but a very gradual growth.
Yeah, I would agree with it with you guys. Yeah. He should have, like, he was gonna initiate last year, COVID happened and everything. It's got shoved several times. We usually do them in September or May, and it's just been, yeah. So, yeah, I guess we've done it. We're gonna do them in May again, maybe.
So you mentioned the difference between the Haitian and the New Orleans.
Louisiana Voodoo.
Yeah, the Louisiana. Can you go a little more in?
I mean, I
into
can
that
a little
some?
bit, like, the only, I mean, okay, first of all, voodoo is just very fluid, right? I think that Haitian voodoo is probably a little bit more fundamental, but I want to avoid that too, because there's no written tradition. And, the fluidity of it is very important, but we do have a reglement. We do have an order of things, an order of which things must be done, an order in which spirits are served, just all these orders.
Okay.
However, but I just want to emphasize that it is fluid too. Now, New Orleans voodoo, I feel like, and like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. I know plenty of people who practice it, down there. From what I understand and what I've observed is they will serve the loa. And I think a lot of them, they don't go through like the initiations that we go through. Not that I'm aware of, at least. I'm pretty sure they don't go through the same kind that we do, but they'll serve the loa, they'll serve the orisha, they'll serve saints, they serve like black hawk. I mean, they
There's
just
a little
have
bit of everything.
a little bit of everything. So it's like a gumbo, a voodoo gumbo maybe.
Yeah, because Marie was very Catholic.
Yes,
And
Marie
she
Laveau.
was one of the founders of the New Orleans. Is that correct or no?
Yes and no. So interesting enough, our house does serve Marie Laveau
Okay.
as a loa. And matter of fact, today is a very important day. And typically I'm in New Orleans today on Magnolia Bridge, washing people's heads right now because it's St. John's Eve. And I ended up going down there because it's so hot down there right now. And they're still requiring everybody to wear a mask outside. I'm like, no, I can't even breathe. No, just, yeah. So it's very unusual that I'm here right now. But our house does serve her. Even though like in Haiti, they wouldn't know who she is, right? But our house happens to be in New Orleans. So how can we turn our back on such an icon, And so our house does serve her.
She was African.
She was Creole.
Okay.
She was a free woman of color.
Right, but was she Caribbean or was she African in her heritage?
I mean, it's relative. I mean, like
I'm just trying to get
the slave trade. I mean, obviously they came from Western Africa through the islands and then up through Louisiana and whatnot, right?
Gotcha.
Like her exact heritage,
That makes sense.
I just
makes
know that
sense.
her father was white.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
then everything that you read about Marie Laveau, there's all sorts of stuff out there about her, right? And truthfully, we don't know if any of it's true.
Correct.
Other than the fact we knew she was Catholic, right? So we know there was a Marie Laveau. Matter of fact, my cousin, she lives like diagonally from Marie Laveau's father's house, on Dauphine Street down there, You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Yeah. And so what we did, so we've got Marie Laveau, right? She had a bunch of kids and named them all Marie.
Marie, and they look very similar.
Exactly. And so like all the stories we hear she's a hairdresser, we hear she's a nurse, but we think that the mom was a nurse and the daughter might have been a hairdresser, what I mean? So we don't really know. And so I think and you have to remember too, everything that is written about her and known about her, who wrote newspapers and stuff back then? It was white men.
Yes.
So they're going to vilify her. They're going to say whatever the hell they want to say about her. So, we really don't have any firm. There are a couple of good books. It's one Carolyn Marlong wrote. It's a really dry read, but it's good. And that's probably about the closest you're going to get to like factual, things with Marie Laveau. But we do know she was like a devout Catholic. We do know that Dr. John Dr. John taught her magic, so she wasn't initiated like in the sense how we do, so she would be like, New Orleans voodoo, right? So there's no proof that she was ever a mambo. They call her like the queen, a voodoo queen. So that's not like a title in voodoo. But in New Orleans voodoo, possibly. Or she certainly was called that.
So
How-
in your training and your tradition, where does that come from? Like with British traditional Wicca, we know where our lineage comes from, and we know where our training comes from, and where our line comes through. How is yours similar to that?
Does my lineage go back to voodoo? Or what I'm confused.
Your training and how you got your house, and or did you do your own?
Did I do my own training? I guess I'm totally
And then
confused.
she's trying to ask like where the house is derived from, like
Yes.
ours is Haiti.
So our house, so
you know
so I have a
the
house here.
lineage.
Yeah, we know our lineage. Absolutely. Okay, I see what you're saying now. I was like, are you talking about my ancestors? Like, no, like I'm totally white. Yeah, they are. I'm like 80% British.
Yeah.
When I found out, I was
Pasty
like,
European,
oh,
I saw it.
yeah, I was like, I look at and sometimes because I have to laugh, because I'm like, I am so, because I used to always tell my grandma, don't tell me we're not black in our family. Like, look at this hair and look at, and this and that. And then when I did my DNA, and I thought, well, maybe we're Greek, because I was like, and I didn't really care. I just did my DNA when we started doing their DNA. I am so stinking white. It is unbelievable. 80% British, like 80 or 8% Nordic, 8%. You know what I mean? It's just like all right there. I'm like, I am such an inbred white person. It's just right. And so then that really took me back, because I was like, how did I get called a voodoo? Like, how did I know these things that I shouldn't know? That's not my heritage. But once again, I just maintain that spirit calls whoever they do, and why I don't know. But funny enough, I travel to England a ton now, and I'm also learning my heritage. And I feel like the voodoo spirits led me that way to learn about my ancestry as well. So, but yeah, as far as our lineage goes, yeah, I started a house here last year in Kansas City. I felt like, it's because like my house down there, they're like, you got to start a house. Like, so many people want to learn here. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want that responsibility, because it's a lot of responsibility, and I don't want to have that. I'm like, I'm good. I'll just like come down there. So the house down there is called the Source Ancien Fu. We have the only freestanding peristyle, which is a temple in the United States. And so that drive from Asha de, I know, it's called Asha de Meadows, but it wasn't called Asha de Meadows in Haiti. So, matter of fact, I don't think it was called anything in Haiti. So, so the woman that initiated me, her name's Delanne Glassman. From there, Jean Louise, or Jean, oh my God, I can't remember, Papa Edgar Jean Louise. He would be like my grandfather in voodoo, and he came from Port-au-Prince. I don't recall their house having a name, which it might. Meadows. But no, Asha Meadows is in New Orleans. That's what the name of our peristyle is. Our name of our house is the Source of Sin. We practice like at Asha de Peristyle. But anyway, he was more like, so we'll get to that too, which is kind of interesting. So he was more like, his family was voodoo, right? So it was more of a family thing.
It was a family trad.
Yeah. And so it was just like totally a family thing. But like when he would initiate people, and yeah, he initiated people in the United States, because obviously, my mambo got initiated there. It was more of a family thing. They would meet with other houses, and do it like together as a group. It was just a community thing and whatnot. So yeah, we trace ours back to Port-au-Prince. Bel Air. He's from Bel Air, but they practice in Port-au-Prince. So yeah, we can trace it. Yeah. And that's interesting, because if you ever want to know if somebody's, because I get a lot of people come to my shop and like, yeah, I do, and I'm like, oh, like, who are you initiated to? Like, who are you, And they're like, oh, I initiated myself. Like, no, you didn't. That's impossible. And I don't mean to say that in a pretentious way, but it's impossible. And so, of course, like, tell them that, because I just got, and they start doing that.
No, I understand.
So yeah, if you want to know if somebody's like legit, you just ask them, like, what's your lineage?
Mhm.
If they can't rattle it off, then no, they're not. They're not unless it's a house thing, once again, but you find that in Haiti and not really here.
Gotcha.
It's the Société Ambuffet Aizan.
Oh, the name of our, yeah. Our house here in Kansas City.
Yeah. So, no, there's not a board behind. We'll write it down. It's called Société Ambuffet.
Yeah, I didn't bring any information, so you can certainly like, I mean, I don't want to like try to promote my store because that's not what I came here for, because I'm not, obviously I'm an Aquarius. Our store's KC Conjure. Sometimes like, and if you go through the pictures or whatnot on there, you can see like former ceremonies and photos and whatnot. I don't even think I've got my house's name on that page, so.
No, you don't.
Cause I've got a house page, but it's like private, you know, for people that are members of it.
For your members.
That's right. However, I will say this too. Okay, so we started up, it's been several years, doing what we just call them, let's get together, you know, and we'll do it like Saturday after the shop closes, for people that are like truly interested in voodoo. Cause I'm not there, like, I don't have time to just entertain people. You know what I mean? Like, you want to learn, I'll teach you what I can teach you. But I'm not just, you know, but I do get it. Some people want to come learn a little bit and they're like, oh shit, this ain't for me like I thought. You know, totally get it. I don't care, because we're not here to like recruit people or nothing like that. Our attitude is just kind of like, if spirit calls you, it calls you, you know? Like, I don't care.
And
I
that's
have
one
no dog in the fight. I don't care if you, you know.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to come. In my area where we came from before, we had a very huge pagan community. We had 5 different covens, and we had what we call rocks, which were rotating open circles. So one coven would do a basic ritual of what they did. So you guys would do like a basic voodoo for a public group that would be like non-initiated. So it'd be very basic, you know, and
See,
another,
that concept would be foreign to voodoo.
oh, okay.
Because we do a ceremony, we do a full ceremony. We're not doing, you know, and yeah, it can be very showy, right? But we want it flashy, showy. We're trying to call down spirits to possess us, right? But you wouldn't like, because I've gotten invited to so many pagan things. I have nothing against pagans. I mean, like, I just joined the OVOD, you know? And I've been studying with that. Like, I go to England, I go to Boston, you know, and just like, and I learned that stuff, right? So I get it, but I understand I got to keep both of them completely separate, because this is a completely different way. Like I said, this is like a closed tradition, right? And so you wouldn't even see, and I've gotten invited to a lot of pagan things. I'm like, oh, can you come do this or put on a little, you know, certain, I know I can't come put on a little ceremony. That's not even how it works. You know, it's like, no, like even hear people like, how do you have these ceremonies all the time? Because I don't have drummers that know all these Haitian beats. I've had people from drumming circles, you know, that were gracious and came in drum. There's nothing like, you know, I mean, they could, you know, just keep a beat. It wasn't like really like hard hitting, you know, to call down the spirits, right? So I'm one mambo, and I can't do everything. I never run the ceremony. I've got to say, thank God because all of our songs are in French and in Creole, Asian Creole, right? And so, so that's another thing, you know, you gotta learn all that stuff, right? And thank God he speaks fluent French. Because even to this day, he still teaches me songs, because that's a weak part for, you know, it's a weak point for me, and it is for a lot of people. So like, that's the whole thing. Like, I can't sit there like, remember, I count on him to sing songs, you know, and I listen and respond back to him. If I had to stand up there and do everything all on my own, I just can't do that. And that's why people don't understand, voodoo is very much community. It's like when you initiate, and you know, and you become a family. It's like everybody has to work together to make things happen. It's not a solo practice. You know, I hear that too. It's like, oh, I practice my own. Like, no, that's not. It's family. You know, and it's just impossible to practice.
Traditional Wiccan sounds very much
It's
like
just-
traditional Wiccan.
Right. So it's traditional, and that's why I keep going back. It's very traditional. We have what we call a reglament, but we're also very fluid because it's a living tradition. Was that?
You have certain ways that you have to do things.
There's a certain order of ceremony. Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, there's certain, because every ceremony we start off with all the same songs, and then we've got certain spirits we have to serve those spirits before we can go on. Like in our house, that seems a little bit, well, our house does a lot of things different. is like, we have weekly ceremony. And the one, when I say our house, I'm speaking right now of the one in New Orleans, right? Because that's my house too. Or not my house. I'm part of that house. But when we go down there, they have weekly ceremony. And they're like, oh, what spirit should we serve, this week? And so we'll plan it ahead of time. We know what offerings to bring. We know songs we're going to sing. We know what we need to wear. It's all that, right? So in that sense, the way we do that is not real traditional, because most voodoo houses will do what they call fetes, and we call ours fetes too. Our big fete would be today, and we serve. It's called St. John's Eve. We do serve Marie Laveau. That's who, because that was her tradition, that she would go out and do head washings for people, just spiritual cleansings and whatnot. So we just carry that tradition forward, right? And so, but then we'll do like our weekly ceremonies. Like I said, we'll choose a spirit or whatnot, and we'll serve that spirit, or loa is what we call it. Now, on the
Okay, no problem. I can hear. Thank you.
and traditionally, like houses will have, and I say houses. Do you understand what I'm saying when I say houses? It's just like, I mean, we all, yeah. So we have different houses. We all basically do the same thing. We all do, a little bit different. But so a lot of houses will have, we all have fetes, and that's just like a party, or in this, or a ceremony or whatnot. But like in Haiti, these go on for days. Like you start singing a song, you sing songs for every law they possibly can. It literally goes on for days. So they'll do it like a ceremony. I check it, but like, I mean, they take time, break, like he might be singing for a while, he gets tired, I'll take over singing, he goes, take a nap or have dinner. I mean, that's how they just roll. They keep it going. And we totally don't do that. Ours is, to me, is more like a church service. We're there for 3 hours or so, depending on what. Or we do fete gated. That's another big fete that we do is, Voudoun and Brigitte. And that one's
like 4 at least.
no, that lasts longer than that. No, that one lasts about at least 6 hours because we do go to the graveyard.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, that, so that's a big difference too, is at our house, there's just several hours as opposed to days on end of doing that, so yeah, that's another difference. Another difference in our house is some people that practice voodoo take a huge issue with is animal sacrifice. Our house is considered a no-kill house. People say, oh, it's because your Mambo's vegan. Well, probably part of it, right? But our attitude about this, because I struggled with this too, is like, well, like if we're practicing Haitian voodoo, then animal sacrifice is a must because that's part of the tradition, right? Once again, I go back to this living, breathing tradition. Things change. We're not in Haiti here. Killing a chicken and feeding the village or a goat, is not a sacrifice for us here. That is not a sacrifice. I can go to KFC, no big shit, but for them, it's a huge sacrifice. It's a big deal, right? And so that's part of it. Another thing is that I heard my Mambo once saying that just like really resonated with me. At one point, we did human sacrifices too. I mean, not a voodoo. I mean, just us as a collective people, right?
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't dare think about doing that now, right? So our house is kind of the attitude, blood does not have to be spilled. We understand that blood is life force and whatnot, but we do not feel it has to be spilled in order to feed these spirits. Like they'll say, oh, but they'll rattle off a spirit. They have to take blood. You have to give that one blood. No, I don't, because we have done so many ceremonies and give them other things, be it rum, fruits, cakes, whatever, cigars, and I have seen them possess people. I have seen them even possess people that say we're full of shit for not giving, I've seen them possess them, and the spirit won't leave them. I'm just like, oh, but what we're doing is wrong. And I don't say that in but I'm just saying I don't feel it's a necessary thing, and I have complete respect for houses that do carry on that tradition. That's the way they do things. You know, I don't look at them any different. That's just the way they do things. And but our house, we did get a lot of shit from people. Either people love the fact like that's cool, you guys are moving forward, we're not killing things, to appease, to appease spirits or um, but or we'll get backhanded, from other people. But you're not doing it.
Well, it's kind of like going to someone's house and you prefer Coca-Cola, but they're like, I've got Sprite. And you're like, no, never mind.
Like you're gonna bitch about it, yeah. That's how we fear spirits. Yeah. And they will. I've heard too. I've heard every argument there is, because they'll say like, well, you can't like. You have to acclimate to the spirits. They don't acclimate to you. And I'm like, I'm sorry. This is a working relationship. And if they want what I got, I'm going to, give it to them. And if they don't, they don't. But you know what? I have no issues. I'll work around that. And, and yeah. Did you have a question?
Yeah, you said that the songs were in French.
And in Creole. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and in Creole.
Yeah.
So in Haiti, what language?
So they speak, once again, it's in French and Haitian Creole. Because you have to realize that Haiti was, occupied by the French.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so the language there is Haitian Creole, and I call it dirty French. That's probably not the greatest thing, to call it. But I mean, it's just kind of slangy, French. I mean, how would you speak fluent French? How would you compare? I mean, some of you understand, some
it's
can't.
a little bit, but at the same, because like sometimes I can understand certain parts of it, but I mean, it's its own language.
It is.
It
It's
derives
very
from French
phonetic,
and also even bits of Spanish and maybe even hints of German
and
as well.
even Dutch. Because
Yeah,
Dutch,
that too.
Dutch.
So there's like sometimes there's some songs that I'm like, oh, this means this because like you're like,
You
it's
can kind of
close to
sort it
French.
out because it's close
So
to
it's,
French. Yeah.
So Haitians speak all these languages and then just sign it? Is that what you're saying?
No, they speak Haitian Creole,
Haitian.
which is his own language, right? And what we're trying to say is like, I can't I'm not a scholar. I don't really know where they derive their language from, but I will say it was occupied by French, or the French. The Dutch were on the other side, were the Dominican Republic. You're right. There's influence of Spain and
yeah, it's its own language.
it's so I mean just like any culture, they. Yeah, exactly. It's just a hodgepodge of everything. Yeah.
Yeah, people, yes, all from different languages. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even around the
Right.
United States, you got Southern Yankee, you've got Southern, you've got West Coast.
Right.
It's all different dialects in the one country.
So we all figure each other out.
Exactly.
But it's still
Okay.
its own language though. Like every time if I speak to a Haitian in French at a ceremony, they will always correct me in Haitian.
They
And tell me to,
totally
like, say it
understand what
again.
he's saying.
Yeah, but they'll tell me, they're like, no, this is how you say it. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and it's like, okay.
But it's interesting because they'll know what he's saying or what he meant to say.
Yeah.
Borscht, yeah.
Yeah.
You mean borscht? Yeah. Yeah, they're so kind. Like the Haitians I've always, had interaction with, they are so kind in correcting you too. They'll giggle or whatnot, but they really think it's cool. Like, oh my gosh, like these people are embracing like our culture, and our gods. Or I say gods loosely. We don't, not God, or their spirits and whatnot.
Slightly different, not quite the same.
Yeah, I mean, so they're always warm and welcoming and kind and just so we just have a lot of stuff.
So he's from France.
No, he's not from France. He's from Kansas City. He just studied a hell of a lot of French.
Oh, okay.
But you know what? He's getting ready to he's like he's going to law school and all this stuff. You're going to take his LSAT and
Fun.
wants to go over to France for a semester. So I told him, I said, I'm not a close shop or find somebody to run the shop. I said, I'll go there with you. Like, I'll be your mom over there, take care of stuff. Yeah. So we might do that. If you come by KC Conjure close for a couple months, I'm in France with no race. No.
Oh, she's.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought you had your.
Oh, yeah. Right. So that's how he, so. Yeah, I got to bring off there a little bit.
Yeah.
I have a question. My teacher, I've been studying with for 5.5 years now. We're like we're gonna talk about, this other idea of sacrifice, that could be something like blood related. Like hook your finger and just drop the blood like on a candle or in a chalice, something like that, so that it's something for you. And we just felt like it's more meaningful when it comes to you with an animal or another group or
Right.
that kind of thing. But if you like hair or blood, I think they would probably be more satisfied if it's coming from you.
And that would be fine in your tradition and my
It's
tradition.
just-
And my way of thinking would be like, I'm not giving blood shit to nothing. I'm like not feeding these spirits. They can get angry, they can get out of control, they can let me want more. I don't give my blood.
Oh,
I am good. But I'm just saying that's in what I believe and what I practice. What you do is what you do. And so
I just wonder if that was.
that's just not even a
anything
concept of Voodoo at all.
similarities.
Not even at all.
And-
Not that I'm aware of. If there is, I've never ever heard of that yet. Yes.
From what I understand, like every deity or spirit is gonna have different personality. But Haitian voodoo is a tradition that hasn't been dormant for thousands of years, like a lot of
No, this has been going.
pre-Christian pagan traditions have. So this is comes from a very different place from what most of the deities we work with as pagans, and the roots are very different, the attitude is very different, and spirits have a very different, from what I understand. I haven't worked with them, so I don't have the experience with them, but from what I said, they have a very a different set of rules than what you would expect from deities that a lot of pagans tend to work with, a lot of European deities. So it's just extremely different. So it would not.
It is, yeah. I mean, it is, and like I said, like I'm starting, to learn like my heritage and the way, way they did things, and it is quite different. Because you have to think like voodoo is not like right now we're talking about Haitian voodoo. We're talking like Voudoun goes back to Africa. I mean, we're talking 50,000 years ago, and it never died. It was just that's why I say it's a living tradition. It's always, it's always going. But I would agree that it is different. It's in some aspects it's similar, but in studying both of them, I'm just like, damn, like voodoo is really raw, and I love it. But it's also for me spiritually, I just get so much more out of it, like community wise, as opposed to. I feel like I'm working, whether it's a coven or not, like I'm working much more on my own, when I'm doing other things. But it's just so community and it's just so raw and it's so, it's quite different. So, but and our spirits. So that's a tough one. Like, I can't even compare it like the spirits. I mean, I'll try to. Okay, so like, and this is my understanding. 'Cause I don't know like the Norse religion inside out. I just don't. I need to get there because that's part of my heritage. I just want to learn out of curiosity, not because like, oh, I'm white and I need to, stay there. I just want to learn out of curiosity, right? So there isn't Frey. It's Frey. I already messed this up. Is Frey a woman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Frey. There is a Frey and there is
The
a
Frey.
Frey.
Okay, the Frey's okay.
There's two.
So we got one. Isn't she like beautiful? Like they all,
Mhm.
So we got Freda, which is funny because if you think about their names are similar.
Mhm.
So where did that come from, right? I mean, So I'm always asking. I'm constantly asking myself these things. And so, she's like considered, oh, she's beautiful. The men fall at their feet. And so there are similarities, and I don't know how because I haven't studied enough how the Norse Frey would react, but our Freda will bitch slap and spit in your face like she does not give a shit. And everybody's like, they're like, I go to Ursula Freda for love and this, that. I'm like, you are fucking because she will stomp you in the ground and spit in your face because she's jealous and she does not care.
Freya is the same.
So see, so if it's the
Sex and
same,
war.
huh?
Sex and war.
Oh, no, see, no, in our Freda, it ain't about sex. She does have 3 husbands, she's more about compassion and love for the
Mhm.
world. She's always crying, you know, and you'll see her with gold and champagne and jewelry, because nothing can fill that hole in her heart. Nothing, you know. And at the end of the day, she's always crying. But where was I going with the? I was going on a path with this, but see what I'm saying? Like they're similar, but we don't like. They are not the same spirits,
Mhm.
obviously. No, not at all. But I just find it interesting too. Their names are very similar, and they have like similar personality, you know. So I'm always questioning myself, like, where does that come from? You know, how did this interact? I mean, I'm sure like people over the ages have interacted in some way, and I know from what I have studied was like a lot of African communities when whites, you know, all the Europeans went in there and invaded. The Africans were more like had more of an attitude like, oh, that's cool. Like, you know, like I was saying earlier, like you call it this, you call it that. Like we see the similarities instead of like, no, you gotta convert. They're like, no, like it's cool, it's similar, or whatever, you know. so I always question, you know, and ask myself, where do these similarities come from? But when it comes down to it, gosh, that's a tough one. I don't know. It's just, and I'm sure like even this, like from the different pagan deities or the Greek or the, you know, they have their similar things, but they're totally different.
They are.
Same with voodoo.
I think they get conflated because, especially in Europe, because the Romans did that when they conquered an area. Like they called, when they conquered an area, they said, "Oh, they worship Mercury here, but they just call him Odin."
Yeah.
The Romans did that a lot.
Yeah.
I wonder. Another one I've seen. You mentioned Freda and Freya, but another one I've seen kind of people make associations with, and I don't know much about the voodoo version of Maman Brigitte compared to Bridget.
Okay,
and there may be a saint aspect to that too.
Oh no, okay, so now I gotta backpedal. Okay, so in voodoo, Mama Brigitte, most of us think we say she is Brigitte. It's the same Bridget. That is what, and we're like, oh my God, that's the only white Lola. It's Mama Brigitte because it's Saint Bridget.
Okay,
right?
That makes sense.
That one does, you know.
Yeah.
And how that even became a part of voodoo, like I don't know. I need to do my research. Like I'm constantly learning. I don't care if I'm a Mambo psychic. I don't know it all, and I'm constantly learning, constantly. But yeah, I know that, and I've always questioned if I'm like too lazy to look into it. I'm not gonna lie.
That would be interesting to know for myself, because that's one of my deities.
Right. And so the other thing too is I'm sure there's other houses like, nah, like Mama Brigitte is not Bridget, you know, Brigitte or whatnot. And the others are like, oh yeah, you know, it's the same. So yeah, so I could probably look into it and never really get an answer. So I just take it for what I like. Oh, okay, that's the only white Loa. I mean, she's a damn skeleton to me. Our version of, I mean, she's a skeleton. So I don't even look at color but I do hear people say like, oh my God, that's the only white Loa. You know, so I'm just like, oh. But that wouldn't make any sense to me, like how that happened. I wouldn't. I don't have any understanding. Well, the Catholics. It's just like you're right. It's probably Catholics.
But that Catholicism was Roman Catholic.
Roman Catholic is what?
That's Irish Catholic.
That is Irish Catholic.
Well,
but the Romans invaded. Everywhere.
She would have been a saint by the 1500s,
and
when they were in that part.
But not only that, if you like look at a Catholicism, there's a lot of Saint Bridgets. There are a lot, and they want to throw all of those bridges into one Bridget, and there's like a lot of
they for a while, especially in the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church was canonizing like names on a tomb.
Yeah.
Like, it was big business in medieval times to have a saint icon.
Saint for everything, yep. And there was tons and tons and tons of Saint Bridgets, just like there was tons of, you know, Saint Peter's and Saint Patrick's. There was a ton of them.
I think it was Vatican II that got rid of a lot, I believe. I remember that right. I
Yeah,
made,
to change a lot of things. There's still tens and
Yeah.
thousands of saints.
There's
Like,
still
you
a
need to
lot.
look them at. There's like lots.
I think they kind of cleaned house a bit. I don't know. It's like, this is no historical basis.
Well, no, yeah, you're right. And then if you like look in the magic, like Saint Cyprian, you know, like they don't want to acknowledge because he was a necromancer, right? So they
I
said, oh
think
no,
they
there's
got
two
rid of-
Saint Cyprians. There's one that was like a holy man.
Yeah.
And this other one that was a necromancer. He became priest, you know. Don't wanna-
I
So
think
he
they
does a
got
church,
rid of-
and that's one reason why I'm not Catholic anymore. but you want I want to gloss over that party. The other thing that's really cool about voodoo is there's so many misconceptions. Voodoo is a way of life. It's a religion. It's a way of life, but like within our own house, my Mambo came from a Jewish background. We have a Hindu princess. Catholics, we've got Christians. A Christian's Catholic, I'm aware of it, like some people separate that.
No idea.
Protestant Catholic. We have some that are agnostic. Like it doesn't take away from your own religious beliefs.
Mhm.
You just come together and practice this. We can still like. Okay, there's a saying like an 80. Like you know, there's what do they say? 90% Catholic, 100% Voodoo down there. You know, they always change the numbers. It might be 70% Catholic, 30%, you know, Protestant, 100% Voodoo. So the whole thing is though, it's like you can. So up here, I'm sure if I went to my priest and said, "Oh, I'm a Voodoo priestess," they'd probably excommunicate me. I wouldn't care, but you know, I mean, they probably would. Down there, it's not an issue. Not that I'm aware of it. I mean, there's a lot of missionaries going down there now and just trying to totally uproot voodoo and call it evil, and it's really sad to take, you know, this culture and just destroy it and just try to colonize it. It's just really sad. Yeah, I don't really touch voodoo. You guys got like questions, like this? I'm trying to get like the main things that people. Yeah, that means people. Do you like? Do you have anything you want to say or to add? Or you just over there just like no? It's yeah. So I will say this too. I would go back because we were saying that we would get together and teach people and whatnot. So we started doing that again. COVID's up. We've been doing it for what, 2 months maybe? And I told him, no, we're only doing this once a month or twice a month because I don't want to, like, I got shit to do. I don't like, I mean, voodoo is my entire life already, you know, and it's like, I need a break, like when, you know, I want
Yeah.
to, but no, he's like, no, because there's so many people are wanting to learn. And so if anybody's there, if you or any, and I'm not trying to recruit because, like I said, I don't care. Like, we just don't do that. It's not even part of our language. but I do see that there are a lot of people that are thirsty for hungry for knowledge and are interested in spirit does call them. And so yeah, you can always like send me a message or something, you know, if you're interested in like let you know the time. So we've got a private Facebook group, but I don't let people in that group unless they show, they really start showing they want to learn and they want to be a part of it because they, you know. Because I used to do it the other way around. And I messed up. Like, oh, yeah, join the Facebook group, and then like, you know, no, and they're like, what'd you guys do, Sarah? No, you have not showed up. Are you not understanding this is community? No, bye. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm trying to do it backwards, and I'm not trying to be mean. But my whole thing is like, if you want to learn. If it's not for you, that's fine. But it's just not. It's not a flippant kind of thing. Exactly. Yeah. It's like you know, learn like. And so the perfect example is that Reese, like every week, we call it choir practice actually. He kept calling me, we're like, choir practices, you know. But he'll make them sing the Craig name, like he'll sing a response, you know, every week until it just like it gets ingrained because it's a different language, you know, it's hard to learn. But that weeds out people. Because they're like, I come from the magic, I want power. Like, well, you come to the wrong place because you're gonna learn these songs first before we proceed anywhere, you know. And you know, yeah, so I wanted to put that out there. So if anybody's ever like truly wants to learn, then get a hold of me and I'll let you know when our choir practices. We're slowly, and then plus too, I say choir practice, you can teach them songs or whatnot. We've been working on like we'll teach people like different salutes that have to be done during a ceremony. And then that way, like if they decide to go forward, we're not telling them any secrets. I mean, all this stuff that we're teaching, if you attended a ceremony, you can see what's going on. They just know what it means, what's going on. It's not anything secret, right? And so we're working on that so that should they ever, should we start having ceremonies here again, or should they go to a ceremony, they're not lost. They understand what's going on. They can't call up spirits and things like that. That's another big mistake people make, that they think they can call voodoo spirits. No, that is really dangerous. It's really dangerous. And so, yeah, but they can participate in ceremony and fully understand what's going on. Know who we're singing for. Know what spirit we're going to sing for next. So yeah. Just get a hold of me if anybody wants to. Because right now, how many do we have? Like maybe like a dozen or 15 or 16 people. But of course, not everybody shows up every time, and I don't expect it. I mean, we got lives. So if it's like a regular thing where you're not showing up, like I'm just like I don't think this is probably for you. But they're and then some people are surprised at me because I would thought, okay, and then they're just like, they're one of the little ones, wow. And they come, they will tell me things, and I'm like, Spirit's really talking to this person, because the things that they tell me are the things that I see them do, and it's really cool to see that happen too. It's really nice. I've seen him grow so much since I first met him, and I'm not saying like he was some kind of like, infantile person or something, but I mean, just spiritually, I've seen him grow so much in his learning, and it's just amazing. And now I go to him and I'm like, how do you say that? Can you pronounce it for me again? So, and that's the whole thing too with Voodoo. We all have our place, in the house, and everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses, and we just totally lean on each other. We lean on spirit, we lean on each other, and and that's what makes it a family. And and then plus too, like when I go on that family thing, when people come to me, I mean, they've been coming to me for 10 years, like interested in voodoo, I'll tell them like, yeah, this is how our house is. I urge you to go try other houses, because like this might not feel right for you. I mean, not like you. But we're not snobby like that. I don't want to give that impression either. But you know how it is, like a new friendship, like, we might go on great, or just like, I don't know what it is, and you might like totally fit in over here. You might totally want to go to a more traditional Haitian house where they, do animal sacrifices. Maybe that's your thing, But so yeah, I always encourage people, don't just stop, just look around and search around and learn.
It's a similar concept with looking for covens or circles to work with in the pagan community, because you kind of, if a coven is doing a meet and greet or something, they're kind of looking at you to see if you'd be a good fit, but you're also looking at them to see if you feel like you would fit with them.
Right.
It's a two-way kind of interview.
Yeah, that's what we did with what I was talking about with the rocks. We had 5 different, we were 3,000 open in our very small area, and we had 5 different covens. And so each month a coven would host the rock. And so they would kind of go through the basics of their coven. And if you were interested in what they practiced, like one of them was a dragon, one of them was a fairy, one of them was much more traditional than that. And if you lean towards dragons, they called you, then you might want to chat with that group, that kind of thing. So yeah. Right.
So are you saying there are houses in Kansas City area that are practiced?
Oh,
yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't always hear like, I'm the only house in Kansas City. I'm the only house I'm aware of. I am sure within the Haitian population here, there are voodoo practitioners. I have no doubt, because they've come into the store. And and I'll say, are you voodoo? And like they'll be real quiet. Like as white people are like, oh yeah, I'm voodoo. There a lot of times the Haitians will be more quiet about it, because they've come into my shop in the past, and I'll be like, are you voodoo? And they're like, oh no. But then I'll just give them a secret, like because we just have like our secret language, and I'll see them respond like without thinking about it, and I'll be like, And then they'll just like, I was like, don't even, like, come here, let's talk, teach me some stuff, you know? So like, as far as like a house, yeah, got a house here, you know, and I'm out there, like, I don't care, like, here's a house. But am I the only one that I doubt it. Like, I mean, I could name like people I know that practice voodoo here is on one hand, maybe, right? But what I'm saying, the Haitian population, it's just part of their life. And I'm sure, I'm positive
As a
they're,
community.
but yeah, but like as a community, maybe not, because I probably would hear about that.
Yeah, 'cause they're not teaching.
I totally, no, not that I'm aware of, unless they're just teaching my other Haitians, but I don't think so, because the other thing I've noticed too is that, oh man, was it down in New Orleans? They did it was a whole drum, or no, there was a documentary, we had a, oh my God, a researcher doing that, trying to figure out why young Haitian men are like falling away from voodoo and not learning like the drumming, like, you know, just the traditional things that they would, and they were trying to follow it, and they were like, well, it's bizarre because white people are picking it up, you know? No, I mean, you know, because white people are being drawn to it. So there was a whole thing about, well, you know, is it wrong? Is it, is spirit realizing like Haiti's being colonized by the whites, you know, and like, oh, you gotta be Christian, you know, and giving these starving children Bibles to eat, like, no, they need food, right? And whereas we're like, well, spirit like coming up here because there's more people, you know what I mean? The spirit's spreading because there's more people that are more open to it, you know, now. And yeah, so here I would be surprised, like, if they openly practiced. And it's not unusual for people to practice in their basement, you know, like with their family or their friends
Like
or
the
whatnot.
private ones.
Yeah,
Yeah, solitary.
yeah.
But what about if you go to New Orleans and you want to go to something that's voodoo? How would you find it?
You would go to our peristyle down there, because like I was saying earlier, we got the only freestanding peristyle down there. I do know other practitioners that are there that practice, you know, like I said, in their basement, in their garden, you know, and that they've got like houses. But like our house down there is the only one I know that actually like lets the public come
Oh, yeah.
on a pretty regular basis. I mean, there's times we'll do like initiations, like no, like people, you know, like,
Yeah.
or there's sometimes we'll do private ceremonies for if somebody's sick or something's going on. It's like, no, nobody can come. But our house is really open. So if you ever go down there, you know, if you want to go to one, just like get a hold of me. I'll tell you, give you the address and all that stuff,
Oh, wow.
you know, and find out, you know, because like I said, I do it every Saturday night, but they're just slowly starting to get back into it because of COVID, you know, and still have rules. Yeah, it just, it really wrecked us. Like, it's like, cause we would get together on Zoom and just talk. And so, you know, we can really.
Yeah, it's hard to do that on Zoom. So I have a question in the chat. And this may have to come with a precursor question. She says, silly question, but is hoodoo used the same in Haitian house as in a New Orleans house? So I may have to start with the difference between hoodoo and voodoo.
So and realize whenever I answer these questions, this is coming from my understanding.
Yep.
Okay, so it could be totally different. I do tell people when they ask me that, when they come to my store, they're like, is hoodoo and voodoo the same thing? Da, da, da. I'm like, no. There's plenty of people that practice hoodoo. It's sympathetic magic, you know, basically. I mean, to make short of it, that's why you know, it's an African tradition. It's like a hodgepodge of things, right? But lots of people practice that, right? So voodoo is a religion. It's the way of life. Do we practice hoodoo? Most people that are voodoo, they do practice hoodoo too, on top of other things. But you know, so does that help?
Yeah,
Maybe
that
that kind of
clarifies.
answers that. But it's
And
not
then,
like,
but the voodoo would be different. The hoodoo would be the same or similar for Haitian and New Orleans because it's not about the religion, it's about the magical practice. Is that
yeah, it's slightly different, yeah.
okay?
So I would lean more on the side of like New Orleans voodoo with hoodoo, because that's the basic. Yeah, I mean, to me, that's more what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it was more New Orleans voodoo. So I'm thinking about like some of the things like we do, we're gonna do that. Yeah, it's not hoodoo. Yeah. Yeah, no, when I think of New Orleans voodoo, I do think of hoodoo. Yeah, absolutely. But don't get me wrong, that's what we practice. Like, that's why I sell that stuff in my shop. I mean, I practice it myself. Well, people come in and like, we do this or we do that for me. I need the strongest voodoo spell ever. I'm like, my spirits are not your work dogs, and that's not how we're gonna roll. Like, I'll go over and do the sympathetic magic for you. I'll fix a candle for you. You know, I will prepare a bath for you, which could be a hoodoo or a voodoo thing,
Mhm.
because I will make voodoo baths for people. But once again, most of them are hoodoo baths. What's the difference with that? You know what I mean? We're still using herbs, you know. But so no, yeah. So even in my own thing, I practice more hoodoo here, but but it's like absolutely zero to do with my voodoo. This is my business. This is what I do.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that with the Haitian, like I've never heard even Haitians use the term hoodoo. I mean, it's probably a foreign concept.
Okay.
But once again, that's the way I understand it.
Yeah.
You know,
So
I
that's
could be
fine.
dead wrong, but
I think there's a lot of Americans tend to conflate the words a lot.
they do. And this is why I found too, a lot of the Black community does that. You know, when they come to the shop, they're like, oh, they put that voodoo on me. And when we sit down, we start talking, like, no, it's hoodoo. But that's okay, you know, and I think, and I always wonder too if that's how because we spell our voodoo VODOU, you know,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to VODO. So I always wondered too, like over time, you know, and the whole, you know, just, you know, just like telling the secret. And, you know, we just kind of screwed up later by the time we get down the line, if that's how voodoo hoodoo, which is my LLC, by the way. Just push them right back together after we say pull them apart.
Yeah.
If that's what happened, you know. Yeah. So
Yeah,
but
and-
it is not like really, it's just it's magical practice. At the end of the day, it's magic practice. System.
Like there's witchcraft and Wicca, or witchcraft and
Exactly.
pagan, basically.
She's everything. Yeah.
I'm sure Hollywood is having.
Oh no. Yeah. And I tell, like, if people really want to learn something, you know, about voodoo, we often say take everything that you've ever even thought voodoo possibly could be and pull it out of your mind and just throw it away. Because chances are it's not close. You know, and I'll go back to when I got called to and I was Catholic. I was like, oh my God, voodoo, you know, like, no, that stuff's scary.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's very beautiful, very healing, very just,
Yeah.
yeah, it was wonderful. Yeah. So, yeah, that's how this is always stuff. But I wish I had all the answers.
That's right.
So yeah, a lot of things I'm just answering from my, you know, like I said, the way I have learned, the way I understand things.
Yeah.
Somebody might have it, so it's, you know, because somebody could be listening to it like, nah, she's dead wrong. Maybe.
Yeah, I have another question. When you guys, someone new comes along and starts learning and training everything, is there like a time span that they're given, or just how long it takes?
Just where however long it takes you, because like I'll go back to the example, like to this day I scratch my head and say, how in the hell did I get initiated so fast? Because it's unheard of for our house to do that. You know, within a month I was like initiated. This guy has been at it forever, and it's always something comes up, and it's not anything that he's done or that he's not ready. Just shit comes up, life happens, right? So relatively speaking, some people will, it's like, it could take 20, 30 years before they, you know, become a Mambo Sagway or a Hoongana Sagway, right? But then when you look at people like, actually, because I'm trying to, like, I want him to be a Hoongan when he goes to Dishi because I need help and he's ready. He has the knowledge, right? So, what, 4 years, 5 years, you know? I became a Mambo 2 years into it. Not in a Sagway, but a Supan, which is like a junior priestess, right? So, you know, which some people take to, and it doesn't mean that I know more, because I don't, right? It's just a place where, like, you're initiated to start learning more, or, you know what I mean? Or just, it's not like, okay, well, you have to know X, Y, Z before we move, you know. But I mean, you have to be at a certain place spiritually, you know, for the, I just think it would be reckless to move somebody along, you know, the line, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Because we're like you're a day, but sometimes it might take you longer than you're in a day. I was given all the time I needed, but
Yeah, we don't rush anyway, like,
like we had to study lots of subjects like astrology, history,
yeah,
that herbalism,
we don't do that.
yeah.
No, I think you got it. Like,
Memory
just,
work.
then we just, yeah, because like when I got initiated, I knew nothing. Like what, so it wasn't like a gray, like, okay, well, she's got up to this point, so we're gonna initiate her, right? I think our attitude is more, and once again, I'm speaking for our house, is more of, okay, this person initiated, okay, now they're ready to start learning this stuff. Now they have taken this step, but they're committed to doing this and learning.
Like dedicating themselves.
Yeah, and so then like you get,
Confirmation.
yeah, so we do like, because we do like, in our house, we do our initiations as steps. You may go all 3 steps, you may only go 1 step, you may go 2 steps, it just depends. Depends on you, it depends on what spirit says, it depends on divination, it depends on what the house feels like, But there's not like any flunking and passing and, you've got to learn all your herbs, or you've got to, that stuff's just gonna come along. It's just like, collectively, we know if that person's ready, they know if they're ready. And for example, like, it took me a while to get to the sideway because I did not want it. Because I saw all the responsibility that comes with it. Because it's not just like, oh my God, I'm a Mambo sideway now, No, that's like a lot of responsibility. Because you're supposed to be responsible for your community. I'm like, I don't need that shit. Like, I can't even take care of myself. Okay. Like, I don't need to be taking, other people's problems. And I did not want it. But my Mambo, like, oh my God, like everybody down there, they're like, nah, you going. You're going to have your own house. I'm like, no, I don't want that. No, you are. And so 5 years, down the road, and I was like, shh, gonna do get over with. Just so they'll shut up, right? and then they say, no, when are you starting your house? I'm like, what? No, I didn't think I had to do that. And I mean, I didn't, but like, how can I not when people want to learn? So that's what I'm saying. Like, you're taking on that responsibility. I don't want the responsibility, but here we are. And, yeah.
The responsibility one of you.
So how long have you been in this?
12 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I think, yes, 12 years. Let's see, what is it? 12 years, maybe 11 years. I'm pretty sure it's 12 years now.
Long time.
And it's bizarre because, that is another thing we're talking about. Can you rattle off your lineage? Most people that get initiated, they're like, I came out of that JVO on this day and this hour. You know what I mean? They'll tell you. I don't remember. I do remember my last initiation to Sagway that I came out on September 11th because I was like, oh, damn, it's September 11th. So I don't even know how long I've been in the Sagway. Like maybe 4 years, maybe
No,
5.
it's been more.
No, how long have I been at this shop? No, I think it's only been 4 years.
5 years.
Well, okay, see, like, he knows.
No.
Like, I just know it happened on a September 11th. I came out and I was like, okay, I don't have to do this shit anymore.
Actually,
This age is very
I
rough.
think you're actually going on 6 years.
I don't think so. I think you're wrong. But
No,
we'll see. You know what? We're gonna get a calendar out.
No, you went to a Sackway before I moved. And then the next summer, I remember we went to St. John's Xavier in the Sackway already.
Okay, so that's okay. So, okay, see, that's what I'm saying. Most people know exactly. I just like want to get what's. And it's not that I don't care. I don't care, but you know what I mean. It's not like I'm just being flippant about. Like I don't care. It's like it's just.
Just the dates don't stick.
Yeah. So, but even I will say, even as in the sideway, I have so much to learn. And my mama, who's been doing this for like what 30 years, 40 years, she'll tell you she still has to like you know what I mean. There's just no holding all the knowledge. It's impossible. And anybody that like from other houses or in Voodoo, like I'm willing to learn like some like and the Haitians are so sweet. They're always like, let me show you this or that, and I'll be like, oh my God, I got so much to learn from you. They're like, no, show me how to do this. And I'm like, what? Like what? No, what? No, but it's really cool because you just learn and it's amazing. Like we just all learn from each other.
That's awesome. It's a great way to be.
Yeah, that's why I like people to understand that it's community. It's beautiful. It's healing, and we just have Voodoo just has a really bad rap.
So with choir practice, when And you guys. get
Choir,
together.
I like to hear other music.
So do you just do songs or what?
No, so
what
he'll
is it?
start it off like he'll start off like we call it the pre-gne. It's called the pre-gne, the prayer, and it starts off in French and Asian Creole. What he does is he breaks it down and he'll teach them that for a bit because we pound it in their head every time they come. It's just like hearing a song or because it's foreign and hearing it over and over again. Pretty soon, like the next time you come, you're just rattling off, right? So that's part of it. That's why we call it choir practice. It's part of it. But then after that, we'll talk about a certain spirit. Like somebody's got questions about, talk about a certain spirit. And like I said, I'll teach them different dance moves, and different listens for different rhythms, because it's all part of it. So that, like I said, when they, we go to the ceremony or they go to a ceremony, they're like, oh, I wouldn't know that, because it can seem really foreign to people, but like they'll click, they'll be like, oh, that song, I remember that song, or I remember that move. We're supposed to do this when we hear that beat, So that's what we just loosely call it choir practice. No, and then at the end of the day too, we'll sit there and like discuss our problems or like what you doing this weekend, because it's a family.
Oh, okay.
That's how we try to
Song and dance and social.
just
hours.
and we try to all cram that in an hour and a half. We don't, because I got shit to do. And everybody else got shit to do. Yeah. And this weekend, like this is the first time we're not having it because he's gonna be in Dallas. I'm like, he loves it. He needs to. Yeah, he needs to. He's a good guy. He's just Mr. Quiet. He's not really quiet. But I'm so excited. I can't wait till he initiates up to like different levels where he can actually like because we do have different levels. Like certain people, you can do this, but you can't do it on this. You're not allowed to do that. So I'm just like I can't wait because he's ready. He's got it's just a matter of
Formality.
Well, yes and no. So initiation is a formality, but it is a huge spiritual journey. Like it's and so to go through that, like it really changes you, change your way of thinking and whatnot. So I can't wait till he goes through all that. So like he can get there and be like, help me do this. And like, because I don't want to be the only one sitting there washing people's heads. I need help. We've had ceremonies where I've actually, I was so happy. Some of the people came up from New Orleans because people here wanted to have a ceremony, they kept asking, and so I was so happy. So I'm like, oh my God, people are washing their heads. This is like so great. We have other Mambos and Hungans here, and we planned on doing that again last, summer, and then COVID hit. So they're planning on doing that soon, or when things settle down, we're going to do that again. And totally, And then, like I said, once he gets initiated, once I find drummers, like I will have public ceremonies where people are more than welcome to attend.
That would be really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And quite, I'm looking forward to it. But people ask all the time, and once again, I just cannot reiterate how much that it takes a lot of us. Right now I'm looking for drummers. I got a hold of who's those people? I don't know. I was just amazed because there was like Afro-Cuban drumming here at school. So matter of fact, I just reached out to them yesterday, so I'm hoping to hear from them, because I know they know their rhythm, or they probably,
Yeah.
because if they're doing Afro-Cuban, pretty close.
JM downstairs is a drummer.
Yeah.
The guy that's downstairs with the black hair that's pulled back and he's got the little.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's a drummer with some group at the Rent Fest. You might
Well,
say something.
and then that's the difference because like I said, I've had people from drumming circles here in Kansas City participate, and like I said, I totally appreciate them, but it's completely different. Like African, you guys might know what's her name, Kathy Birch.
Yes, Kathy
Yeah.
Budget.
Yeah. So she's kind of, she's the one who I get a hold of, and she's done the last couple of ceremonies and bring some people from her, circle and whatnot. And like I said, I appreciate that, but it's just not quite, people. That's why I can't wait to go. Like I would love to bring our drummers up there. I have to pay for all the travel and everything. That's another thing. I can't afford that.
Moving the drums.
Yeah, and then for them to bring the drums and we got to feed them and whatnot. And oh my God, if you were to see these drummers, I need to find. I wish I had them on YouTube or something, because then you would understand what I mean. Like, oh,
So they don't have sheet music that
No.
the drummer
Oh,
can.
no, no, no,
No.
no.
No, I mean,
No, no.
imagine like people in Haiti or Africa, they're not looking at
They're
sheet
not-
music.
they're
They're
not
like,
looking
get the
at-
I
beat
mean,
and let's
if you
go.
wanted to learn it, they
No.
couldn't transfer.
No,
the sheet
voodoo,
music.
voodoo,
No.
even
There's no
the
that kind of
voodoo, even the drumming, it's all about being there, being in the minute, participating, listening, watching. You know what I mean? Repeat, repeat. That's how. I mean, that's how they learn. That's
Yeah,
how
most
we
of us
learn.
Can hear that and pick it up.
Exactly.
That's the same way we
But-
do choir practice.
Yeah.
Like we don't give out sheet music or anything like that. If you show up, you're gonna learn.
And if you don't show up, well, then you don't want to learn. That's how it goes, you know. And when people are like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, well, you know what? That ain't my problem.
Work.
And I mean, I hate being that way, but I was there. But I mean, I do the same thing with our house. We have Zoom meetings all the time. And it's typically, matter of fact, well, if they work in St. John's, it would have been tonight, like our choir practice down there. And typically I'm closing my shop, I'm driving home. I got, you know what I mean? I can't get on the line and do, you know. So guess what? When I'm like over there going, what happened? You know what makes you despair? That's what they tell me. Put in there for you. It's like, come on, man, don't do that. So same thing, like I don't expect any, you know, if I'm not there, if I want to learn, I'm going to show up. But it's not always that, like, so I do want to learn, I can't show up sometimes. But I don't expect it to be handed to me. Yeah, that's the whole thing. I don't expect it to be handed to me. It ain't their fault that I wasn't there. I had to drive home. It really ain't my fault. But guess what? I wasn't there. I mean, that's how all this morning. It's about being present. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. So you guys got any more questions or?
What kind of, you were talking about what you do ritually, you were talking about like wearing jewelry and certain.
Yeah, well, it's not really about wearing jewelry. So a typical Voodoo ceremony, I'm sure like a lot of you probably have seen everybody dressed in white with white head wraps. That's pretty, you know, much what we do. This like tonight, that's what they're. But that's typically what we do. If we do a Patua ceremony, which is like those are more fiery spirits, we might wear red and wear a red headband. But like white's the go-to. Like you can't mess up. Wearing white's the go-to. Fete Day, that's for the dead, and you'll see us wear purple, black. That's the time that we get to wear like whatever the hell you want to do. You know, and just be crazy and be we just be naughty and stuff. Because that's the other thing too. Because I remember thinking that like, oh my god, this is like I like do these voodoo orgies and you know what I mean? Like I just had all this crap in my head. And actually, we have to keep our shoulders covered, and which you know, in our head, and you have to keep your ears covered with the and you can't show cleavage. The women have to wear skirts. Like that's just the way it goes. And is it misogynistic? Maybe, but that's the way it goes. That's our tradition. You know, it's hot. It's hot in Haiti. You know, it's hot in New Orleans, and I have to laugh because our Mambo will let us wear tanks, or you know what I mean? Like we let us wear like our arms are showing and stuff because it's freaking hot. It's like, well, isn't it hotter in Haiti? Like they don't do that. You know, you'll see them like down to their, you know.
Yeah, most of the men wear pants, like white pants and white top in Haiti. Like it's hot, but it's like you cover up.
I think we're just more Americanized here. We're just like,
There also
well,
may be a
shit, you know.
ocean freeze issue difference.
That might be true because it's island. You know what? You're absolutely right. I didn't think about that. I'm just thinking about the humidity because I think like Florida's kind of like it's down there. Right? The ocean breeze is not hot. It's still hot.
Walk out, you're still walking through soup.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like
No.
it's swamp ass.
Protection from the sun is white.
That's true too. Possibly, absolutely. I'm sure there's many reasons. Absorbing the sweat, all of that, all of those things. Yeah. So, but yeah, we so white's the go-to. White is the go-to, and you know, there's different reasons for that. Some is I mean, just you know, let's see, like white, like it's like we're emulating the ancestors, right? They're dead, their bones or whatever, you know, like that, or we are all. I don't want to say white's like that pure color. You know, you think of the bride or the white. But if you think about like we're trying to get the attention of all these spirits, and what better way to do it? Everybody's wearing white. Everybody's got white on their head. You know, we're just like trying to call down these spirits. You know, and we're all white dresses. the red one or white hair here. I mean, I don't know. I'm pulling that out of my ass, but I'm pretty sure that's part of the reason why we do that. I'm sorry. I'm holding back on the cursing too. I'm sorry. I got a funny mouth. Sorry. But I mean, I'm sure that there's like plenty of reasons why. I just don't have one. That's the way I process this. My mind thinking of why we do it. Well, and you know what? And white is rata color, which is like a large group of our spirits, our watery spirits. And so, yeah, I mean, like, so that's all. And like the spirits we serve at the beginning of every ceremony, they're rata, So so that's why I say white's like a go-to. It's like,
Absence of any color.
yeah,
Opens up everything.
there you go. I like that. It's what
Yeah.
We're just absent. We're like just here to serve whoever.
That's right.
You're so quiet over there. So where is it? Like, do you get like? I feel like you just have something really good. Just so that. Yeah. He's just worried. He's like, my kid's right here. Shit. Go back there.
Does voodoo have reincarnation?
Wow, that's a really good question. Once again, that's not doctrine, right? And I'm on the fence of that reincarnation, but I'm pretty sure my Mambo and a lot of house members totally believe in reincarnation. But is it a voodoo concept? Not really. But yeah, I mean, like the only things I can think off the top of my head when it comes to life is that the things that, when I think about voodoo is that we do believe, like we've got two spirits, we've got a big spirit and a small spirit. One's our ego, one's our like the purity of us, that may go back to God, and our ego. Maybe that's right. I don't know. Shit, I'll do that. Yeah, so that concept I think is just an individual, because I mean, if you think about like a lot of them are Roman Catholics in Haiti, I'm pretty sure they don't believe in reincarnation, right? But then again, I know plenty that practice do. It's just an individual thing. Gotcha. Yeah. One thing I'll throw in there too is a lot of people have, once again, another misconception is we absolutely believe in God, but we call him bonsai. Voodoo. Can you say correctly? Yeah. But we absolutely believe in God, and then all the spirits that we serve. The best thing I can ever compare it to, or the easiest concept I think to compare it to would be like saint veneration. Is like, because in Voodoo the concept is that we believe in God being so far from humanity that and I say he, but he doesn't dwell in our daily lives because he's so far from so we go to these, spirits, and we believe in angels, and people just, they just don't know.
So God is a being, mono.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep. And then of course we've got all the spirits, but I mean, God is God. God is and Buddha is, once again, let me say how I look at it. It's creation. It's like life. It's like the source of everything, right? It's the source of everything. Is it like the Christianity God that you're talking about? No, I don't look at it like that at all. And I just say using the term he to put a title on it.
Dual.
Yeah, no, and I understand they've got God and Goddess, right? So is that the way it is in Voodoo? Like possibly, but like not. But we only look at it as a singularity, but it's all encompassing of everything. So does that make it a duality? Absolutely, not.
Now
Yeah.
I see your depth.
Or at least that's my concept of God.
Yep.
Right? Don't even like me saying he or me saying God is just putting a lid on everything.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm already limited to everything.
That concept makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
But once again, the biggest thing I think I take from that is that we believe that God's so far from humanity that he doesn't have to give me shit if we win the football game. Nobody cares.
It's got
They're just not in our daily
busy.
lives. Yeah.
a lot going on.
Damn
with grief.
universe going on over here.
It's
So,
all
yeah,
yours.
so that's why we go to these other spirits a lot in our age, but mainly people is our own ancestors, and that's the big thing. That people that I want to work with these, but I'm like, no, we're going to your ancestors first because that's where everything's going to come from. Or, not everything, but it's like where you're going to draw your greatest strength is from the ancestors. And I think that's in a lot of traditions.
There's a lot of ancestor veneration in traditions and in people that are solitary, just on their own,
Absolutely.
doing ancestor stuff.
Yeah.
Is the concept of ancestors like community ancestors in voodoo, or is it more personal ancestors of that? I guess it can still be kind of community of if it's ancestors of that religion. It's it's different in paganism because a lot of this came here from something else. But or is it kind of a combination?
It's
like
all of them.
All of them. Okay.
Just all of it.
Cool.
So like when I have an ancestor altar at home, right? And I've got, those that I know that have passed away, but the nicer like ancestors, like I probably, it might seem paganish, even is often like all the directions say, hey, all of my ancestors, seen and unseen, love, honor, and respect to you. I turn, what I mean? You're doing all of the directions because like I'm calling on ancestors like I don't even know who they are, The Loire in Voodoo are considered ancestors. I have my Papa Edgar, who is not my blood, on my ancestor altar because, well,
Because your grandfather is
it's the right thing,
Right.
Who's going to guide me and teach me? It's going to be him.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I trust, We're not even the same color, from the same country, or nothing,
Yeah.
And I didn't know him that well. He passed away, he passed away shortly after I initiated, so I didn't get to know him really well. But do I trust him in the afterlife? Absolutely. Yeah, he's not going to let me wrong. So, yeah, so it's it's everything you say. Everything. But like, I don't know, I tell people though, like, I'll go back to when I say work with your ancestors. I do mean work with your immediate ancestors, work with the people work, and just build from there. Because we carry forth their DNA, like they have a stake in it. That's how I look at it. I don't know if that's a voodoo concept, but that's just me. Like they have a stake in it. I'm carrying their namesake, I'm carrying their DNA. Like, why would they want to see me fail?
It's a pretty common idea.
I think that's a common idea across
Yeah.
the board. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that's really necessarily a voodoo idea. But I incorporate it into my practice.
I also know people who have problems with ancestor work because they have problems with their ancestors. Like Which is
We're
fair.
just gonna skip over
There-
the
sometimes-
assholes and go on back to the
sometimes we have some shitty ancestors.
No, I totally agree. There,
Yeah.
I have some that my family, my more immediate family that passed away. They're not on my altar, and they're
Yeah.
not going to be on my altar. I don't have I'll just like, hey, here's some water. I'm not working with you. I will say prayers of elevation for you and hope. When I say prayers of elevation, it sounds like Christian-y, but I hope you understand what I'm sure you guys do.
To learn something before you come back, or
Right. Well, no, yeah. Okay. So that's
lose those hangups that made you a shitty person in life.
okay. See, that would be
Kind
a
of.
reincarnation thought, right? Which I don't really, which I'm kind of like on the fence about,
Yeah.
right? And so, and
So
my
you're not
concept is like my. Okay, so it is kind of Christian and kind of not like separation from God. Like I don't believe in hell and none of that stuff, right? But I just say prayers of elevation. I guess just for them, to bring them. I want to say bring them closer to God. Part of like you know what I mean, to become God again, or I'm gonna have to think about how to put that into words. How I really feel about so other people can understand the way I think about that.
I think I get almost not necessarily as to come back, but that was
Yeah,
my
no,
own
but I
thing
mean,
coming
that
up,
would
but-
that makes sense too. To
Yeah,
me.
but like moving past those things that were problematic that you had in your life that were problematic or traumatic
Yes,
and all
yeah,
that stuff, and healing from those to move on in spirit.
No, yeah, absolutely.
That's where I was going. Just the
See, yeah,
habit of saying coming back. It jumped in the wrong direction.
no, I mean, I think that either way is perfect.
Yeah, that's it.
No.
That works.
Oh. Does anybody else have any questions or?
Yeah, I do.
Uh-huh.
Those books you recommended,
Uh-huh.
I didn't have a pen when you were saying them.
Oh yeah. So one of them's called the ones on the Haitian Revolution. The one's called it's called Unbroken Agony. And then the other one was, I thought was the black Jacobites. Or did I say that right? Jacobites.
The black.
I always call them wait a minute, because there's a guy that I talk to in Scotland sometimes.
They were Jacobites.
No, but he says it totally different. Jacobites. He says it because
Jacobites,
that's what I'm saying. It was like said Jacobites, and I was like,
but it's spelled Jacobites.
it is. It's like Jacobites. Yeah, that's why I always say Jacobites. Yeah. Okay, and so then like the ones to like understand voodoo a little bit better is Maya Daren's the author, and it is called oh my god, hold on, I got it written down here somewhere. Like I like to think it's like the Living Gods of Haiti. What the hell? I do this every time. It's like it's the most popular book. How about let's see? Oh, Divine Horseman. Divine Horseman, Living God of Haiti. Living Gods of Haiti. And you know, actually, you can pull that up on YouTube because she was a philanthropist and went to Haiti. She was an actress too, I think, and an author. And it's in black and white. It was like 1954, I think. It's on YouTube. It's like an hour and a half long.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, interestingly enough, too, we have an altar to her in our temple in New Orleans. Like I said, she was a philanthropist, and she went and she studied, you know, these things, and she initiated herself. Which that happens quite a bit because we do have philanthropists fill our house all the time, and it's bizarre because a lot of them like end up initiating because they're just so they get so caught up in it. The other one, this is the one I really super like, is Remembrance. The only place I have ever found it is on Amazon, I think. But there's a lot of books called Remembrance. But the subtitle is called Root Rituals and Reverence in Voodoo by Jerry M. Guile. So that one's really good. I like that one a lot. There's a ton of voodoo books out there that are just crap. You just kind of wade through it. And at the very beginning, there's a lot of bad information on the internet. There's some good information. You won't find secrets of, you know, they're like,
No.
no, that's crap. I don't know who put that out there, you know. But my attitude, like when you're looking at something online, if you see it over and over and over again, then there's probably something to it. If you see something over here far-fetched, you're like, oh, I never heard that about that spirit before. It's probably bullshit.
Or if it's the exact same thing repeated over and over.
Then you have to ask,
They
like,
keep sharing the same picture.
or pictures. I mean, pictures are pictures, but
Well,
like,
I
but
mean,
sometimes I even get worried when they
Same thing.
say they use almost exact same line over and over
Yes.
again, because sometimes even I have to stop and say, but is that really real? So it's just real, you know, I mean, you just have to learn to discern.
my thought connecting that was that Ishtar Easter thing, which is entirely wrong.
Is what?
That Ishtar Easter connection thing, which is
Oh,
entirely wrong. I
oh,
hate it.
really?
I've tried to share stuff to debunk it if I see it. So not too bad this year, but
See, and I'm learning all that stuff. I'm just learning all that stuff. I mean, I hear the concepts and, you know.
yeah.
So I'm just like, okay. I thought it was called, so Easter, I thought it was I thought it was All-Star.
There's
That's
an
good.
Oster, Eostre, and she is German. Ishtar is Babylonian
What's
and not the
All-Star?
same. Oster is
Oh, Ostra.
yeah, it's more like a moon,
Oh,
spring kind of and moon related.
yeah, okay.
Vague reference, and I think that even that is a bit of a there could be some making stuff up there.
Stretch there.
I can't remember who wrote about it now.
Hmm.
I'd have to look up the details because it's vague, but yeah, Ishtar has nothing to do with Easter. Like I see that and I'm like, no, that's wrong.
It's always fun, huh? Everybody's fun learning all those things. I certainly don't have all the answers, but I will say just, you know, if you find things out there, just be super careful. You know, there's a lot of people that claim to be, you know, a part of it, like they just but then once again, like people say I'm a fraud and I'm fake because like they will say that, you know, that my initiation is not real. I don't give a shit. Like, cause we die, like, cause we don't sacrifice animals again, you know, it goes back to that. So. it's-
I'll see if I can find those books and post links in the Facebook event.
Yeah, because that remembrance book, the last time I looked, it's getting a little pricey. And it's just because I've got American, I think I do have 2 hard copies. I say pricey because it's like, it was like $100, you know, I mean, it's pricey for a small book. So,
Is it out of print? There's only a few available.
I don't
Possible.
know. Yeah. And if I think of it, and there are other good books out there, I'm just not like pulling them off the top of my head right now. My own Mambo wrote a book called Voodoo Visions, Sally Ann Glassman. People get a little bit confused though, because she's got a lot of Orisha in there, but they have to realize that it went with the New Orleans Voodoo Tarot deck, you know, and that's why it's got Orisha and,
Yeah.
because people are like, because I'll get shit from that too. They'll be like, hey, you guys, like, worship the Orisha. I'm like, we have never served an Orisha in any ceremony. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, this happens to be in that book. This like 30 years old with the tarot, you know. But it has fantastic information, like on the process of ceremony and a little bit about different spirits. So that's another good one. But I'm sure there's other good books. I just can't think. Like pop them off.
I read one in a class in college. I cannot think of it
Mama
now.
Lola's another good one.
That was it.
Yeah, Mama Lola.
I'm like, if there was a
Mhm.
fictional novel I read that was Mama Days, and I'm
Yeah, no,
trying
Mama
to
Lola's a
remember
real
them.
person. I've gone to some of her stuff.
oh nice.
Yeah. I remember, I think she passed away last year. I don't want to say that. But yeah, that's a really good book too, Mama Lola. I forgot about that. But see, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm sure there's other good books. I just can't pop them off the top of my head now. So I'm just not good at that.
It's been a long time since I read it.
Me too. But I remember it was
Since I in
really good.
college, but I did like it.
Yeah, it is a good book. So, does anybody have any other questions? Because if not, I'm gonna run Reese back to my shop to get his keys so he can go on vacation.
All right.
Yeah, well, like, what do you like? So the best way to get a hold of me, yeah, the best way to get a hold of me is my store page is KC Conjure, on Facebook. On Instagram, it's KC_Conjure.
Social media at all.
Oh, she's not. Well, she can call the shop. My phone number at the shop is 816-756-5551. And I have a terrible memory with people, so just remind me like that you came here. Yeah, and then we can just tell you, because I know for sure we're not going to have it this Saturday, probably next Saturday.
Yeah, might get that.
Whatever day, you know what day that is?
No, just next Saturday.
Next Saturday.
I'm gonna thank you, Zoom people. We're gonna stop recording and turn off now. Thank you for coming, everybody here too. Thank you guys for presenting.
Well, thanks for
And-
having us. I'm sorry, like I'm just all over the place, you
Oh,
guys.
that's great. And if you
I
ever
hate
have a
speaking.
ceremony,
Oh no, if I ever see yeah,
let
we'll
us know.
definitely put that up
Post it in
there.
the Facebook group.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye, everyone on Zoom.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.